this year. And then it also is part of the, we call it 4th Avenue project that, you know, is in the state park, and that's been a lot of taking out invasives, planting cedars by the creek, and also doing in-stream work, putting logs in Tryon Creek. So this is all in the Boones Ferry crossing area. So the Boones Ferry, Arnold Creek and Tryon Creek come together right above Boones Ferry right there, and go through the culvert. And right now the culvert is pretty much impassable to fish. The one at Highway 43 is, believe it or not, actually in better shape than this one, which is not saying much. So fish can get through that one a lot better than they can get through this one. They found almost no fish at all going through here. They're going to be installing radio tags on either side of the culvert this year to see if there is any fish movement, because they do tag salmon in the creek. But the good news is that in 2012 the culvert's going to be replaced. Yeah, and it's going to be passable to fish. So it's in the City of Portland's budget. They just have to raise some grant funds to get it done, but construction is going to start in 2012 or 2013.
Do you think there'll ever be a bridge and a path and all the good stuff?
Who knows? I haven't seen. I don't know if they've come up with the final design yet, so we'll see.
Well, you think that might even be part of the next?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Too much to hold.
Yeah, I don't know. So we will walk down that way, and you can see that one side has been done, the other side is not. I don't think the property owner on the other side has gotten fully on board yet. But just downstream from here, so you can see that this flat area again, like I was talking about, is the old floodplain. Sometimes it still gets up here, but you want it to be a little bit more connected. This is all the best habitat right here. So when they're trying to get salmon and trout in here, this is where they're focusing their efforts. And the logs help with that. They make pools, they make riffles so the gravel can settle out, and the fish like that small, you know, half-inch and less size gravel to spawn in. So.
But do you
create shade too?
They like shade, yeah.
This is very much in the sun.
Right, yeah. This is also adjusting the shade project. All the revegetation work is addressing that. In the state park, they've been planting. Even though you wouldn't think that shade would be a problem there, they've been planting a lot of cedars to try to get more conifers in the floodplain. It's a lot of alders, which are great, but it's good to get more of that those really big trees in there. U.S. Fish and Wildlife does surveys now at least once a month, and they say that this stream down here is actually has the same number of trout that they would find in a normal mountain stream. They find every year about over 70 active reds for trout, rainbow trout, and cutthroat. So it's actually a pretty healthy stream down here.
Does Arnold Creek have fish in it?
They haven't gone up. The farthest they've gone up to Marshall Park. That's the furthest, and they did find a juvenile Chinook up there. They have no idea how it got up there. But this is basically the extent of where the fish are. I think they've tagged something like 72 juvenile steelhead, 15 juvenile coho, and a few Chinook in here, but no adults. And they do the juveniles. So what they do is they use this creek. And they'll explain this more at the bottom where you can see it, but during high winter flows, that's when the little fish can get up. They're coming out of the Willamette because they're not spawning here. So they're ones from upstream that are trying to get out. This is if you're coming down the Willamette, Tryon Creek's a really nice, if you're a fish, it's cool and clear, and it's a lot better than the Willamette just flushing you out. So that's where all the fish are coming from right now. But there's no adults that they've ever found getting past the culvert. But this is the year when they'll find out, because they finally finished the work down at the Confluence. So if they're going to start coming, this would be the year that they'd be here. So we'll see.
You said there were rainbows in here.
There's a few rainbows. It's mostly cutthroat.
Yeah.
And the rainbows, they're hard to tell the difference between steelhead, if they're a steelhead, or if they're a resident rainbow, because they're basically the same fish.
Yeah.
So. But they're out here. You'll see the guys with the backpack. They shock the water just a little bit, so that any fish that comes up, they'll float to the top. And they put a little tag in them, and they have a radar detector at the culvert, so they can see fish moving in and out of the system. And they're going to be putting one up here too. So
that doesn't kill.
So this, they just finished this. They started in the summer, and basically down here you used to not be able to even see the creek, and it was extremely, it was basically like the other side. That's how steep the banks were. And they came in here and they moved a lot of dirt to even the banks out. And when we go up further upstream, though, you'll see a lot more of that.
And why did they do that?
They did it to, first of all, make access a little bit easier, but also here it's not for floodplain storage, but for up there further, you can see it's so that when it floods, what we were talking about, so the stream has room to meander. So it doesn't just cause this really like strong channel. There's gonna be, it allows more of the stuff to settle out. And they put in about 150 logs, I believe. And the water level, normal wintertime water level is just about where we're standing right here. It comes up to about here. And these logs are all anchored down. And the reason they put these in is basically, it might not seem like much, but there's almost no bank habitat along the Willamette. So when the river gets really high, the fish, the little juvenile fish don't really have many places to go. And even though it's a small project, like when they do studies along the Willamette, they find like the majority of the fish really hang out if there's any sort of like logs or habitat complexity where it's not just like riprap, that's where they're going to be. So even little things like this make a huge difference. And they weren't sure how much the juvenile fish use the Willamette to actually grow rather than just, you know, go to the Columbia, but they just finished the study. And from Willamette Falls down to Portland, they actually are like twice the average size. So when they're at Willamette Falls, just in that like 10 miles, they grow to about twice the size. So they're eating a lot in here. And there actually is quite a bit of good food for them to eat in Willamette. So projects like this to add more, you know, add more places for them to get out of the high wintertime flows is really good. Because the longer they're in the system, the more chance they're going to have to survive. They're going to get bigger before they go in the ocean.
What about the toxicity of a Willamette?
The toxicity,
Yeah.
I mean, compared to what it used to be, they're not finding really that many fish are dying. You know, there's not very many salmon dying. Most of the salmon that are dying are from predators, you know, smallmouth bass, stuff like that. But the water quality seems to be good enough for fish to handle. And when they finish that big pipe project, it's gonna be a lot better. So basically the creek here, we can start walking up it now. They're going to be planting this entire thing in February. Pouring through here. The fish have places to rest.
Yeah, that's great.
You'll see more of it. It'll make more of an impact during the high wintertime flows when most of these logs will be in the water. And that's when it's going to make the most impact. But up here is where they did the most work for the floodplain. They're hoping for it, because that's the type of gravel the fish like to use for spawning. So when it's all high flowing like that and there's nothing to stop it, all that good gravel just gets washed downstream. So. It has room to meander through here and like have gravel deposits, all that through here. So it's probably not going to flood every year, but it's one of those like 5 to 10 year flood events. Probably will inundate this area.
Is this gravel under the snow?
No, it's just whatever was here before. Yeah, and they buried these logs in here. But this was really, they took out a ton of it. The project was just finished, like probably a month and a half, 2 months ago.
What was its name?
The Tryon Creek Confluence Project Phase 2.
Okay.
This was Phase 1.
Did they put all those rocks in
Yeah, Phase 1 was, the first part was making the culvert passable. So you can see that culvert under there. I believe it's 600 feet or something.
I heard 400.
400. So that goes under Highway 43. It used to be about a 4-foot drop from that culvert to the pool, and that's why no fish could make it up. They tagged the fish and they tagged them, and they saw they were trying to make it, but they couldn't get up it. So what they did is they made that pool is really deep now in front of it. So they put all those logs and rocks in and dug out that pool. So now it's about, even during right now it's pretty low water, and it's still connected to it. So the fish have a much better chance now of getting through.
What is the jump that the fish have now?
Basically nothing.
Oh, nothing.
They have to build
Oh.
up the stream bed a little bit here?
No, they just basically blocked up the front, and they put all these boulders in because it used to just be more of a chute through here, and it's like bedrock. The fish couldn't get up it, so now you can see it's more like a mountain stream where there's little step pool, there's little falls and then pools and stuff like that. So this is the year basically. So now that this part's done and this part's done, the fish should be able to make it through. Salmon don't really like going through culverts though. Anyways, they have a hard time. It's something about the darkness, and they're just different places. There's places in Seattle where the fish have made it through like 2,000-foot culverts. So ultimately, the best thing would be to get it removed, but that's
Light the
a
culvert.
really expensive project. It'd be a bridge. So I think it's like it'd be a $30 million. It's something really expensive. I think I just saw a little fish jumping there actually.
In the pool. Oh,
You know, you're probably allowed to.
no.
And you can see the radio, that little bar going across the front, that's the antennas. So that's where they tag the fish. And they definitely have tagged the juveniles moving upstream and downstream to the culvert. So they can make it through.
And even last year, weren't the fish numbers pretty way up from previous years?
Yeah.
And how long is that culvert?
It's 400 to 600 feet, yeah. So and the culvert also used to just be a blank, a straight shot of cement. Now they put these baffles in, so there's it's like 5-foot wooden baffles that go in steps, alternating, so that it's almost like a fish ladder. And they've also made it so they're rounded, so the lamprey can suck onto them, stuff like that. So yeah, the Fish and Wildlife guys are out here every couple weeks, so I guess we'll know if the fish are coming through. They have found adults in here before, but they never found them going above the culvert before.
And when did they finish phase 1?
Last year. So this is all pretty.
Last spring, yeah.
So this is all pretty new stuff. So it's kind of the.
But I can tell you that 40 years ago they did, because I used to hike in there,
Yeah.
and they were lots of adults going
Yeah.
through 40 years ago. I don't know how they got through, but they were.
Salmon or steelhead?
Steelhead and coho, I believe. Those are the two,
Is it
ones
the
that
same
used it.
culvert, do you think?
Yes,
Michael?
absolutely. But I think a lot changed in those 40 years.
Well, the sewer line was built about 40 years ago.
The sewer line doesn't go
Yeah,
down.
this
It's
is-
more than that now, I guess. Yeah.
You guys have any questions about this?
Yeah, it's wonderful.